Nature needs kids. Kids need nature. Become the great student of this great teacher. Nature needs kids. Kids need nature, from the tallest of trees to the smallest creature. Nature needs kids. Kids need nature. Become the great student of this great teacher.
Hi, friends. Hello. How are you? It's so good to see you. Say goodbye to the singing children. Welcome, welcome to my sing-along and nature program. Well, today's sing-along is called The Squirrel. I bet you know what a squirrel is. We'll learn more about the squirrel in a minute or two. But let's sing. Ready? Here we go. Come, friends, walk with me. Come, friends, to the trees. There's so much to learn. There's so much to see. Come, friends, to the trees. All right. Here we go. Come, friends, walk with me. Come, friends, to the trees. There's so much to learn, so much to see. Come, friends, to the trees. Here we go. Come, friends, walk with me. Come, friends, to the trees. There's so much to learn. There's so much to see. Come, friends, to the trees. Ba-da-ba. To the trees. Ba-ba. To the trees. Come, friends, walk with me. Good singing. Good singing. You're getting to know the song, aren't you? Yay! You know, that song was written by myself and some friends at the program for young children where I work. We wrote it together about Cynthia's Woods. I bet some of you watching know Cynthia's Woods. Well, today we're going to talk about the squirrel. You want to see my picture? Okay, here it is. Here's my little squirrel sitting on a branch eating something. Can you see it right there? Let me see. He's got his hands holding a little old nut. That gives you a hint of what they eat. Well, would you like to know some of what I learned when I researched? Okay. Here's what I ask myself when I set out on my research journey. What does the gray squirrel look like? Where do squirrels live in our world? What habitat do they need? What do they eat? I already gave you a hint. Where do they nest? Why are they important? Remember, all our nature friends are. Well, here's what the eastern gray squirrel looks like. He's gray, that's part of his name. He has a fluffy tail. This tail happens to be kind of up on his back while he eats his nut. He has very strong legs because he jumps around the trees. He's got little round ears, and his eyes are on the side of his head. Remember when we talked about the bunny having eyes on the side? Our eyes are in the front. The squirrel's eyes are over here. That makes it pretty handy to see anybody that might want to come down and eat him like a hawk. He can see back here. He can see up here. See, my eyes are up here. I can't see back here unless I turn my head. But a little squirrely and bunnies, their eyes are over here. They can see up here. They can see back there. That's pretty handy. So, let's see what else I learned of what they rounded ears, eyes are on the side. They're about, well, with their tail, they're about that long. Their bodies are about like that. The eastern gray squirrel, anyway. There are some other squirrels that might be a little bigger. Remember, all nature friends, there's all different kinds of squirrels, different kind of daffodils, different kind of oak trees. This is the eastern gray squirrel. That's the kind I have in my yard in Ohio. Talked about his fluffy tail. Do you know what he uses his tail for? Can you guess? Yeah, it helps him balance when he's walking across a branch. He also uses his tail to keep himself warm. That looks like what he's doing here to me. He's got his tail up on his back. I bet it's keeping him warm. You know what else I learned that the tail can help with? If he puts it over his head, right there, it can keep the water off. That's pretty handy, isn't it? He also, if you ever see a squirrel in your yard shaking his tail, that might mean that he's kind of upset. Maybe somebody's near that's scaring him. What else did I learn? Where do squirrels live in the world? Well, I got some in my backyard. Do you? They live practically everywhere, but not in Antarctica. Brrr. Not in Australia. I didn't know that. So if somebody from Australia came to visit me, they'd be pretty surprised to see a squirrel, because they don't have them there. Isn't that interesting how nature friends aren't everywhere? They have particular spots in the world that they like. The eastern gray squirrel likes the eastern part of the United States. We've learned a lot of animals and nature friends that like the eastern part. That's where I am. Maybe that's why, because I'm doing a lot that I see in my yard. That's interesting. I'm in Ohio. Let's see. What habitat do they like? Do they need? Well, he's eating a nut, and that nut may have come from a big oak tree. We talked about the oak tree. So they like to be in forests that have oak trees and trees that make other nuts, because that's one of their favorite foods. So they like to be in forests or in yards that have trees that have nuts. That's what he or she likes to eat. They also like to eat some other things. Do you want to know? I thought they probably were an herbivore, remember? Just eating plants and stuff. But I learned that the squirrel is actually an omnivore. Remember, we learned that a couple days ago. Do you remember what that is? They eat plant food and some meat food. And the squirrel will eat tree buds, flowers, and seeds in the spring. In summer, berries and fruits. In the fall, he'll pick up those acorns and other nuts and eat them or hide them in the ground. And in winter, he'll eat those nuts. Maybe he'll put some in his nest. So that's what he eats. But I also learned that sometimes a squirrel will eat an insect or even a baby bird. I did not know that. That was something I learned this morning when I researched. A couple more questions that I asked myself. Where do they nest? Well, I have a couple squirrel nests up in the trees in my yard. Do you? Maybe go out today and look up and study the trees and see if you see any collection of leaves and twigs high up in the tree. That might be a squirrel nest. They like to make their nest out of twigs and leaves. But guess where else they might have a home? They might have a home where a woodpecker made a hole in a tree. Remember we talked about the woodpecker, the pileated woodpecker that makes a hole in a tree sometimes looking for insects, and how other nature friends might use that as their home? Well, the squirrel just might. So, the pileated woodpecker might be his friend in a sense that he makes a hole where he can make a home. Well, the last thing I learned as to why they are important. Well, the squirrel is something called a seed disperser. We talked about that yesterday with the cardinal. Remember? The cardinal eats seeds. Sometimes they drop. Sometimes in their droppings are seeds too. And that makes more bushes or whatever that seed is. That'll make a bush when it falls, or a new whatever it is. Oh, if he was eating a crabapple seed, it would become a crabapple when it got to the ground. So the cardinal is a seed disperser, and that's what a squirrel is too. Whoopsie. That was what we studied yesterday. The squirrel will hide those nuts under the ground, and sometimes he won't be able to find them. Sometimes he will, and he'll eat them up. But sometimes he won't be able to find them. And guess what those seeds will become? That's right. They might become a new oak tree, or whatever nut it is, it'll be a new tree if that squirrely doesn't dig it up. So, he helps grow the forest. And that's very helpful because a lot of nature friends depend on the forest. So thank you, Mr. Squirrel. And the other side of that is, well, some things might just hunt him, like the hawk. The hawk in my tree might actually hunt the squirrel. Eagles, owls, foxes, coyote, bobcats, they might all like to hunt the squirrel. So, remember, that's how nature works. It's all about balance. That sounds like a good song, doesn't it? We all write us a nature song about balance. It's all about balance. If we had too many squirrels, whoop, it would be out of balance. So we all help keep it in balance. Hopefully, anyway. Well, that is the squirrel. Hope you enjoyed learning about the squirrel. You know what time it is for? You know what time it is now? Woo! It's time to rock! It's time to nature rock. Woo! All right, get your percussion instruments, Sarah. Get your percussion instruments, friends at home. You ready to get up and dance? All right. Let's go, nature rocks, nature rocks, nature's cool, look at all the things that we can do, yeah. We can climb a mountain, you can climb a tree, yeah. Swim in the waters of that deep blue sea. Open the door into your own backyard. Find cool nature you don't have to look far. Cause there's over 10,000 species of birds. Another 5,000 mammals you never heard. Million of insects to blow your mind. Nature is cool, that's the bottom line. Nature is cool, that's the bottom line. Here we go! Nature rocks, nature's cool, that's what we wanna be. Nature rocks, nature's cool, that's what we wanna be. Nature rocks, nature's cool, that's what we wanna be. Nature rocks. That's where we wanna be. Ah, yeah. Yeah. Listen up. Nature is cool. That's where we wanna be. Weather. Nature is fly and nature is free. Get up! No computer screen can ever compare to all the sights, all the sounds when you're walking out there. It's time to put down the cell, turn off the games, the iPod, the berries, and all the screens. It's time to wake up your body, wake up your mind. Get up, get out, and leave the gadgets behind. 1, 2, 3, nature rocks, nature's cool, that's what we wanna be. Nature rocks, nature's cool, that's what we wanna be. Nature rocks, nature's cool, that's what we wanna be. Nature rocks, nature's cool, that's what we wanna be. Get out, put down the games. Get up, get out, do the real thing. Get up, get out, put down the games. Get up, get out, do the real thing. Get up, get out, put down the games. Get up, get out, do the real thing. Get up, get out, put down the games. Get up, get out, do the real thing. Get up, get out, put down games. Get up, get out, do the real thing. Real thing, the real thing. Yeah, nature rocks, nature's cool, that's where we wanna be. Nature rocks, nature's cool, that's where we wanna be. Nature rocks, nature's cool, that's where we wanna be. Nature rocks, nature's cool, that's where we wanna be. Turn it off. Unplug it. Yeah, yeah. Woo! Did you dance? Did you? All right, friends. Well, I'm so glad you were able to join me today. Remember, work on your nature journals and learn some more about the squirrel. Get outside, lots and lots and lots. Ooh, here's another picture of a squirrel. Is she pretty? Oh, so cute. Look at that big fluffy tail. You know what I forgot to tell you about that I wanted to tell you? Remember, there's all sorts of different squirrels, lots of different kinds. I wanted to show you a squirrel that I find kind of fascinating. This is a different kind of squirrel that we might even have in Ohio, called the flying squirrel. Now, the squirrel we talked about certainly jumps to different trees. Boy, they just can walk on those branches like they're walking on the ground. But the flying squirrel almost looks like a bat, doesn't it? It actually leaps from the trees and puts out these little flaps and flies to the next tree. Isn't that awesome? Yeah. And yeah, there is a flying squirrel that you can find in Ohio. I've never seen one around my house. I think they like the forests more, the more dense forest, not just like yard trees. Well, friends, remember to get outside lots and lots to observe nature. Remember that all our nature friends are important and have a purpose. And remember that nature needs you. We all need to do our part to take care of our nature friends. And nature needs kids, and kids need nature. We need the sun. It helps our bones. It helps our eyes. Being outside can even help us be a little smarter. Yeah. It helps our brains. It helps us feel better. Nature needs kids, and kids need nature. From the tallest oak tree to the smallest creature. Nature needs kids, kids need nature. Become the great student of this great teacher. Here we go! Nature needs kids, kids need nature. From the tallest oak tree to the smallest creature. Nature needs kids, kids need nature. Become the great student, this great teacher. That's right. Open your eyes, open your ears. Sit down in the middle of the forest here. Listen to the wind, the birds and the trees. They got a great tale to tell you and me. Here we go. Nature needs kids, kids need nature. From the tallest oak tree to the smallest creature. Nature needs kids, kids need nature. And they're counting on us to be their protectors. So, turn off the tube, turn off the games. Walk outside and make a difference today. Plant a new tree, clean up a stream, make the fishies home nice and clean. From the great bear to the whales of the sea, the songbirds and the bumblebees, the tigers of the east, the rainforest too. You need them and they need who? You! Nature needs kids and kids need nature. From the tallest oak tree to the smallest creature. Nature needs kids, kids need nature. Become the great student, become the great student, become the great student of this great teacher. Yes, good singing, good singing. Well done. Friends, thanks for joining me. I will see you tomorrow. Same time, same place, 2 o'clock. See you then. Be well. Bye-bye.